Robin Gibb, one of the legendary voices of the Bee Gees, passed away 13 years ago, leaving behind a musical legacy that shaped pop, disco, and soft rock forever. But even more than his music, what stayed alive after his death were the strange stories, unanswered questions, and long-lasting rumors that people kept discussing for years. Many fans believe there were secrets surrounding his final years, his health battles, his relationships, and especially the complicated family situation that slowly developed behind closed doors. When a celebrity dies, rumors always appear, but in Robin's case, these rumors never really died. They kept growing, spreading online, on fan forums, in tabloids, and even in documentaries. And now, more than a decade later, something even more surprising has happened. His children have finally started speaking openly, confirming some things, denying others, and revealing details that many people never expected to hear. Their voices matter, because they're the only ones who truly saw what Robin went through in his last years on Earth. And their decision to speak now has brought his name back into the spotlight, making people wonder why these revelations were kept silent for so long. For years, fans suspected that Robin had suffered far more than the public knew. During the final years of the Bee Gees, Robin became more private, more withdrawn, and sometimes even appeared physically weak during public appearances. There were times when he looked tired, pale, or thin, and people noticed. Fans whispered that something was wrong long before the official health announcements came out. The rumors became louder after his emergency surgery in 2010, when doctors discovered a life-threatening condition. And later, when he entered the hospital again and again, the media kept guessing, but the full truth about how serious his condition never came out clearly at the time. This left a lot of space for speculation, and because Robin was a very private person, even his silence made people imagine the worst. After his death in 2012, the rumors only grew stronger. Some were about his illness, some about his personal life, and some about the emotional struggles he supposedly kept hidden from even those closest to him. But the biggest reason these rumors survived for so long was that Robin's family stayed quiet. His children rarely gave interviews, rarely discussed their father's last years, and never answered the public's questions. For more than a decade, the silence created more mystery, and mystery creates even more rumors. People began believing that there were things the family didn't want to share, maybe out of respect, maybe out of pain, or maybe because the truth was more complicated than anyone imagined. And this is what makes their recent statements so important. After 13 years, Robin's children are finally confirming some of the things that fans wondered about, including the emotional pressure he lived with, the physical pain he fought through, and the difficult choices he had to make near the end of his life. They also talked about how the world misunderstood certain parts of his life, especially the stories about his relationships and his health journey. Hearing this from the children themselves is powerful, because they are not speaking as celebrities or media personalities. They are speaking as people who lost a father, who watched him struggle, and who lived through everything quietly while the world outside kept making guesses. Their comments not only give clarity, but also bring back a sense of respect and humanity to Robin's story. For years, the rumors made his life seem bigger, stranger, or more dramatic than it really was. But now, his children are telling the world that behind the fame, behind the music, and behind the mystery was a man who worked hard, loved deeply, and fought bravely. And the fact that it took 13 years for them to speak out makes everything they say even more meaningful. Their words are not for attention. They are for truth. And now, the world is finally hearing it. For many years, people all over the world wonder what truly happened inside the Gibb family during Robin's final years, and why so many strange stories kept appearing even after his passing. As one of the legendary Bee Gees, Robin Gibb lived a very public life, but his family relationships were often kept behind closed doors. This privacy created a space where rumors grew easily. Rumors about secret health struggles, hidden family conflicts, disagreements over money, and even claims about children who were said to have come forward with information they had never shared before. As time passed and the world continued to listen to the beautiful music Robin helped create, many fans felt that some questions remained unanswered. Now, more than a decade after his death, his children have finally started to open up. They are sharing truths that remove confusion, correct lies, and give a clearer picture of their father as both a man and a music legend. These revelations not only help people understand Robin's life better, but also bring peace to a family that has carried heavy emotional weight for many years. From the outside, Robin's life looked glamorous. He was famous, successful, loved, and admired by millions. But his children explained that behind the bright lights were moments of fear, sadness, and quiet battles that most people never heard about. Robin dealt with long periods of illness that left him weak, but he often tried to hide the seriousness of his condition because he never wanted to worry others. His children revealed that he pushed himself too hard, even when doctors told him to slow down. They speak about nights when he struggled to breathe, days when he was in pain, and moments when he tried to laugh through discomfort just to make his family feel less afraid. These are details the public never saw, and hearing them now helps fans understand the depth of Robin's strength. His children say he was not just a singer, he was a fighter. Even when he knew his time might be short, he continued to work, to write music, and to be present for the people he loved. Another rumor that followed the family for years involved money and inheritance, something that bothered Robin's children because it created a false image of tension inside the family. Many false stories claimed the children were fighting over their father's estate, but now they explain that most of these stories had no truth at all. According to them, Robin planned things carefully. He made sure his wife and his children were protected. He knew the world could be harsh, and he wanted to leave them stable, safe, and supported. His children say they never fought about money. What they struggled with was grief, not possessions. For them, losing their father was the biggest loss of their lives, and hearing strangers invent stories made the pain even worse. Now, by speaking openly, they hope to shut down these rumors once and for all. They also address one of the most whispered about rumors, the question of whether the family had become divided in Robin's final years. His children explained that there were difficult moments, but not because of anger or bitterness. The real reason was fear. Watching someone you love slowly become weaker is heartbreaking, and each family member coped with that pain differently. Some became emotionally distant because they were afraid of losing him. Others stayed close and tried to spend every moment they could with him. This distance and closeness created misunderstandings that outsiders misinterpreted as conflict. Now, the children want people to understand that there was never hatred in the family, only fear, sadness, and the natural confusion that comes when a loved one is dying. They also talk about the strong bond Robin had with his brother Barry, the last surviving BG. Many believe the brothers were not close near the end, but Robin's children say the opposite. They reveal that Robin and Barry had deep emotional conversations, phone calls filled with love, and moments where they talk about their careers, their family, and even their regrets. These were private conversations, not meant for the public. But sharing them now helps fans see that the Bee Gees' bond was never broken as Robin Gibb's children continue to open up about their father's final years. They also reveal another side of the story that the public rarely saw, the emotional toll that fame took on their family. Growing up as the children of a global superstar was both exciting and difficult. They explain that while Robin loved his fans deeply and always tried to give his best on stage, the pressure that came with fame sometimes affected his personal life in ways many people never understood. There were times when he had to travel for long tours, leaving his family behind for weeks or months. Although he always tried to stay connected through phone calls and letters, the emotional distance was sometimes painful for the children, especially when they were young. They say their father was never absent because he wanted to be. He was absent because music was not just his job. It was his passion, his identity, and the one thing he felt he needed to share with the world. Even so, the children admit that there were moments when they wished they had more normal family time. Simple things like movie nights, long talks, or quiet dinners at home. These memories, or the lack of them, became even more emotional after his death, when they realized how much pressure he'd been under during his peak years. Another point they clear up is Robin's personality, which many people misunderstood. To the world, he often looked quiet, almost mysterious, because he did not always speak much in interviews. This led to rumors that he was cold or distant, but his children strongly disagree. They describe him as gentle, funny, and full of quirky humor that only his family truly knew. He loved telling stories, making jokes, and singing around the house. He enjoyed simple things like gardening, watching old movies, and spending time with his pets. The children say that Robin's public silence came from shyness, not arrogance. He was a deep thinker who often felt more comfortable expressing himself through music instead of long conversations. This part of his personality explains why many people felt they never fully understood him, and why so many rumors started in the first place. He simply wasn't someone who shared everything with the world. His children also talk about the emotional stress Robin faced during the years when the Bee Gees went through changes, especially after the death of his twin brother Maurice in 2003. Losing a twin is a unique kind of pain, something almost impossible for others to understand. Robin was devastated, and his children recall how his energy changed after that. He became more reflective, more emotional, and more protective of his family. He also struggled with guilt, wondering if he could have done something differently or been more present. These feelings weighed heavily on him, and while he tried to hide them behind his work, his children could see the sadness in his eyes. They say that the loss of Maurice was one of the biggest emotional wounds Robin ever carried, and it influenced his health, his work, and his outlook on life. Addressing another rumor, the children explained that the stories about secret feuds inside the Bee Gees were completely blown out of proportion. Yes, the brothers sometimes disagreed. That is normal in any family, especially one working together under intense pressure, but they always found their way back to each other. Their bond was stronger than any argument, and their love for music kept them united. The children revealed that even when Robin was sick, Barry visited him and had long conversations about music, memories, and their dreams. They talked not just as brothers, but as best friends who would build a legacy together. This truth helped silence the false rumors that claimed the brothers were no longer close or that they had unresolved anger. According to the children, their father's relationship with Barry was filled with love from beginning to end. Finally, the children speak about how hard it was to watch their father's health decline, especially during the final months. They describe how Robin remained hopeful even when his body was weak. He would sit with notebooks full of lyrics, trying to write new songs, believing that he would one day return to the stage. His determination touched the entire family. Even when he could no longer walk on his own, he asked for his keyboard to be placed beside his bed so he could continue creating music. These details paint a picture of a man who never stopped fighting, a man whose love for music was just as strong as his love for his children. They want the world to remember him this way, not as someone defined by illness or rumors, but as someone who lived with passion, kindness, and incredible strength. As the children continued speaking openly, they also tried to explain what life was like inside the Gibb household during the most difficult months of Robin's illness. They say that everything changed when their father's condition became more serious. The house, which was usually full of laughter, music, and visitors, suddenly became very quiet. Doctors came in and out, nurses stayed for long hours, and the family gathered together more than ever before. Robin's children describe how they learned to live in a strange balance, trying to stay strong in front of him while secretly dealing with their own fear, stress, and sadness. They explained that it felt like living in two worlds at once, one where they were trying to act normal, and another where they could not escape the thought of losing him. Every day became unpredictable. Some mornings Robin felt strong enough to talk, listen to music, or smile. Other days he was tired, weak, and barely able to move. His children say they learned to appreciate even the smallest moments, such as holding his hand, hearing him whisper a memory, or watching him close his eyes while listening to one of his favorite songs. The children also talk about how Robin tried to protect them emotionally, even when he was the one suffering. They say he never wanted to show how much pain he was in. He would joke with the nurses, ask his kids about their day, and even pretend he felt better than he really did. His goal was simple. He wanted his children to remember him as strong and loving, not as someone defeated by illness. This quiet strength became one of the biggest reasons they decided to speak out now. They feel that the world should know how brave their father was, how hard he fought, and how deeply he cared for his family right until the very end. They also make it clear that the rumors claiming Robin ignored his health or refused treatment were not true. He did everything he was told to do, attended appointments, took medication, followed medical advice, and stayed hopeful. But some diseases are stronger than any treatment, and the family says that accepting this truth was one of the hardest parts of their journey. Another topic they address is the emotional pressure placed on them by the media. Even during Robin's illness, journalists tried to get private information, sometimes calling the house repeatedly or waiting outside to catch a photo. The children say it was overwhelming and unfair. They understand that their father was a famous public figure, But they also believe that every family deserves privacy, especially during moments of pain. They felt trapped between wanting to protect their father's dignity and dealing with the outside world's hunger for news. Because of this pressure, some people misunderstood their silence and created false stories on their own. The children now hope that by sharing their real experiences, they can replace those rumors with the truth. They emphasize that silence does not mean conflict or secrets. Sometimes it simply means a family is trying to heal. They also reveal how music became a source of comfort during Robin's last months. The family often played the songs he wrote, both Bee Gees hits and the lesser-known tracks that he loved personally. They say that even when Robin was too weak to speak, his eyes would shine when he heard the melodies that defined his life. Sometimes he would lightly tap his fingers, try and follow the rhythm. Other times he simply closed his eyes and listened, as if the music helped him escape the pain for a moment. His children believed that music kept him alive longer than doctors expected. It gave him strength when his body was failing. It reminded him of his success, his passion, and his connection to millions of people around the world. They also mentioned that he wanted to finish a final musical project, and although he could not complete it, he left behind notes and ideas that the family still treasures. Another important truth they share is about the unity of the family during this period. Rumors claimed there were arguments between his children from different relationships, but they now confirm that this was simply not true. In reality, they supported each other. Everyone came together to be by their father's side. They sat in the same room, held hands, cried together, prayed together, and helped take care of Robin. They say that illness has a way of removing all differences and reminding people what truly matters. For them, all that mattered was that Robin felt loved, protected, and surrounded by the people who care about him most. They now want fans to know that the final chapter of Robin's life was not about drama. It was about family love, unity, and emotional strength as Robin Gibb's children continue sharing their memories. They also begin to talk about the months after his passing. Months filled with confusion, heartbreak, and a level of public attention that none of them were emotionally prepared for. They explain that losing a parent is painful for any child, but losing a parent who is a world-famous icon brings a completely different kind of pressure. Instead of having quiet time to mourn and heal, they face cameras, reporters, and non-stop questions from the media. Every small detail, every facial expression, and every word they spoke was analyzed by strangers. Some people created stories simply to attract attention, while others confidently spread rumors without knowing anything about the private pain the family was going through. Robin's children revealed that they often felt like they had to hide their grief because they did not want the world to see them at their weakest. They also felt responsible for protecting their father's legacy, making sure that lies did not overshadow his achievements or his memory point. One of the hardest things they faced after his death was seeing false rumors appear everywhere on social media. They saw claims about secret family fights, money disputes, and stories suggesting Robin lived a troubled or dramatic life behind the scenes. His children say these stories were hurtful, not only because they were lies, but because they distracted from the real truth. Robin was a loving father and a gentle soul who wanted nothing more than peace and happiness for his family. They explained that no one outside the family truly saw the love that filled their home, the warmth Robin brought into every room, and the effort he put into staying emotionally connected to his children despite his busy career. They believe that many people forget that famous artists are still human beings. They have fears, hopes, dreams, and families who love them deeply. By speaking now, more than a decade later, the children hope they can repair the damage caused by years of misunderstandings. Another challenge they faced was a sudden shift in responsibility. Robin had always been the emotional center of their family, the person everyone turned to for advice, comfort, and encouragement. After his death, that role had to be filled, sometimes by his wife, sometimes by his children, and sometimes by all of them at once. The children recall how they tried to take care of each other, sharing their grief so no one felt alone. They learned that healing from such a huge loss takes time, patience, and deep understanding. Some days they felt strong, ready to honor their father's legacy. Other days, even hearing one of the songs on the radio brought tears to their eyes. They described those early months as a period of emotional chaos, where tiny moments, like seeing an old photo or finding one of his handwritten notes, could trigger both warm memories and fresh heartbreak. They also talk about the enormous weight of carrying their father's legacy. Being the children of a BG means constantly being reminded of the world's expectations. Fans want them to keep the memory alive, to speak about their father publicly, to represent his name with pride. And while they are honored to do so, they also reveal that it can be overwhelming. They want people to understand that they are not trying to replace Robin, nor are they trying to profit from his fame. Their only goal is to protect the truth, honor his work, and ensure that the world remembers him accurately, not through rumors, but through the love, passion, and music he dedicated his life to creating. Another rumor they addressed is the idea that they stayed silent because they were hiding something. They say this is absolutely false. Their silence was not a secret. It was simply a way to survive their grief. They needed time, years of it, to process the pain, manage the emotional trauma, and regain enough strength to speak publicly. They also wanted to wait until they were ready to talk calmly and clearly, without anger or confusion. Now, after more than 13 years, they finally feel prepared to share their father's real story with the world. They want people to see Robin as they saw him, a loving dad, a brilliant musician, a gentle human being, and a man who faced life's challenges with courage and kindness. As Robin Gibb's children continue to share their experiences, they also open up about the period when the world began revisiting the Bee Gees' legacy after Robin's death. Tribute concerts, documentaries, interviews, and articles started appearing everywhere, celebrating the band's influence on music history. While these tributes were beautiful, the children say they often felt emotionally conflicted. On one hand, they were proud that millions of people still love their father's music. Hearing fans from different countries talk about how Robin's voice shaped their lives made them smile, even in moments of sadness. On the other hand, these tributes constantly reminded them of their loss. Every TV special, every radio interview, and every public event brought back memories they were still learning to handle. Some days they felt strong enough to watch, but other days they turned the TV off because the emotions were too heavy. They explained that grief does not disappear just because time passes. It simply changes shape. Sometimes it becomes softer, but sometimes it returns with full force when least expected. Another truth they share is how difficult it was to deal with public expectations about the Bee Gees' legacy. Many fans hoped the surviving family members would release Robin's unfinished music or publish personal letters, diaries, or unreleased recordings. But the children say that this decision is incredibly emotional and complicated. They explain that their father was perfectionist. He never wanted anything released unless he believed it was complete. He cared deeply about quality, about meaning, and about the message behind every lyric. So the children felt conflicted when people pressured them to release private material. They are not against honoring their father's work, but they want to do it in a way that respects his standards. They also say that some recordings are so personal that releasing them would feel like sharing a piece of Robin's soul without his permission. Now that they are older and more emotionally stable, they hope to someday create something special with his unfinished music, but only when they believe it fully honors him. That Robin's children also take time to talk about something that has rarely been discussed publicly: the emotional bond their father created through his music. They say that Robin never saw himself as just a singer. He considered his voice a tool that allowed him to connect with people emotionally. When he sang about love, heartbreak, or longing, he meant every word. His children recall how he would sit for hours, writing and rewriting lyrics until he felt they were honest. They describe how deeply he cared about storytelling, how he wanted every song to hold meaning, and how he believed that music had the power to heal emotional wounds. This is one of the biggest reasons his children decided to speak out now. They believe that the truth about his heart, passion, and creativity is more important than the rumors that have followed the family for years. Another misconception they address is the idea that Robin's illness came suddenly. The children explain that although his final months were the most difficult, signs of his health problems had appeared long before. He experienced weakness, fatigue, and unexplained pain, but he kept pushing through because he loved performing. Many fans wonder why he continued touring while sick, and his children finally provide the answer. Music gave him strength. Standing on stage made him feel alive. Hearing fans sing along helped him forget the pain for a moment. He was not ignoring his health because he was careless. He simply could not imagine life without music. His children say that understanding this part of their father's personality helps explain why he held on for so long, fighting against a disease that grew worse with time. The children also share that Robin often tried to prepare them emotionally, even if they didn't understand it at the time. He would tell them stories about resilience, about handling life's challenges, and about staying strong through loss. At the time, they thought he was just giving fatherly advice, but after his death, these memories felt like messages he left behind. They say that every lesson, every conversation, and every small moment with him now feels precious. They understand that their father was trying to leave them emotional tools to handle life without him. These memories, they explain, are the real inheritance he left behind. Far more meaningful than money or possessions, they asked the children continued discussing their father's legacy. They also talked about how Robin Gibb's passing brought the extended family closer in ways they had never expected. For many years, different branches of the Gibb family lived separate lives. Some were busy with careers, others lived in different countries, and some had their own personal struggles. But when Robin passed, something in the family dynamic changed. His children explained that grief has a strange way of reminding people what truly matters. Relatives who had not spoken regularly began checking on each other. Cousins who barely knew one another formed new friendships. Even old misunderstandings within the family began to soften, because everyone suddenly felt the same deep emotional pain. The children say that Robin always wanted his family to stay close, and in a bittersweet way, his passing became the reason many family members reconnected. They feel that this emotional unity is part of the legacy he unknowingly left behind. The children also address another rumor that has circulated for years, the idea that Robin left behind a complicated will that caused tension between different family members. They state clearly that this story is false. They explain that Robin was careful about planning his estate because he did not want his family to experience any confusion or conflict after his death. He made sure that everything was organized and legally clear long before his health began to decline. His children say that the real difficulty was not the paperwork. It was learning how to live without him. They recall how people on the internet speculated about secret disagreements or legal disputes. But the truth was far simpler. The family needed time to grieve, not time to argue. They wanted privacy, silence, and emotional space to heal, but rumors and online commentary made it harder for them to process their loss calmly. Another emotional topic they discuss is the pressure that comes from being associated with a legendary music family. While many people imagine that being a child of celebrity means living a glamorous and comfortable life, Robin's children say the reality is much more complicated. They describe how difficult it is to walk through a store, attend an event, or use social media without seeing references to their father or the Bee Gees. Sometimes these reminders bring comfort, but other times they feel overwhelming. They explain that grief becomes harder when the world constantly reminds you of the person you lost. Even years later, hearing "How deep is your love" or "I started a joke" can make them emotional, not because the songs are sad, but because they carry memories tied to their father. Memories of watching him rehearse, hearing him hum melodies around the house, or seeing him smile when he finished a song he was proud of. They also speak about the important responsibility they feel toward their father's fans. Robin's children understand that millions of people admire their father, and they know many fans still feel emotional about his passing. They say they want to honor those feelings because Robin himself always felt grateful for the people who supported his music. He used to tell his children that fame is temporary, but connection is forever. This belief shaped the way he treated his fans, with kindness, respect, and appreciation. His children want to continue that spirit, which is one reason they finally decided to address the rumors and share their personal experiences. They want the fans to have the truth, not stories created by people who never knew him. One of the most touching things they reveal is how each of them keeps their father's memory alive in their own way. One child listens to his music while driving because it makes them feel like he is still riding beside them. Another keeps photographs in their home and talks to their children about the grandfather they never got to meet. One holds onto letters and notes he wrote, reading them whenever life becomes difficult. They say that these small habits help them stay connected to him, even after so many years. They want people to understand that grief does not disappear. Not after 1 year, not after 10, not even after 13. It simply becomes part of who you are. You learn to live with it, to carry it gently, and to let it guide you toward kindness and understanding. Finally, they talk about how sharing their story publicly has helped them heal. For years, they carried their memories quietly. feeling as if the world had built a wall of false stories around their father's name. Now, by speaking openly, they feel lighter, as if a weight they carried for more than a decade has finally been lifted. They hope that their honesty will replace years of confusion with understanding, and they believe their father will be proud of them for protecting the truth with love and dignity. As Robin Gibb's children continued sharing their story, they also began discussing the deeper lessons they learned from watching their father live, work, struggle, and eventually say goodbye to the world he loved so much. They say that growing up with a famous father taught them many things about success, ambition, and sacrifice, but losing him taught them even more about the true meaning of life. They realize that fame, awards, and public recognition are important, but what truly lasts are kindness, love, and the memories people create with those who matter. They explain that their father was never impressed with the glamorous side of fame. He cared far more about being a good person than being a famous one. He often told his children that music is temporary, but compassion is eternal. After his death, these lessons became stronger and more meaningful. They helped the children handle grief, understand their father's struggles, and carry his values forward into their own lives. One emotional truth they share is that Robin, despite his fame, sometimes felt lonely. His children remember how he would walk around the house late at night, thinking quietly, writing lyrics, or simply reflecting on life. They say that while the world saw him as confident and successful, he was also a sensitive and emotional person who carried worries, anxieties, and fears just like anyone else. This vulnerability, they say, is one of the reasons he was able to write such touching music. He understood human emotions deeply because he experienced them strongly. His children now feel that sharing this truth helps the world understand why his voice sounded so powerful and emotional. It came from a heart that felt everything intensely. They want fans to know that behind the artist stood a gentle man who simply wanted to make people feel something through his songs. Another important subject they discuss is the challenge of growing up with a parent who was both present and absent at the same time. They explain that Robin always made sure they knew he loved them, even if he was far away on tour or busy with recording sessions. He would call, send messages, and bring small gifts that reminded him of them while traveling. But the children also admit that sometimes the distance left them confused. They knew he loved them deeply, but they also knew music demanded a big part of his time and energy. After losing him, they began to understand the complexity of his life. He was not choosing music over his family. He was trying to balance two worlds that constantly pulled him in different directions. This understanding brought them peace and replaced old childhood confusion with adult empathy. They also talk about how Robin's death changed the way they view time. Before losing him, they assumed they had years left to share more experiences, more conversations, and more family moments. When he passed, they suddenly learned that time is unpredictable. They say this realization has pushed them to live more fully, appreciate small moments, and value the people they love. They talk about how they now tell their loved ones, "I love you," more often, how they try to make time for family gatherings, and how they avoid unnecessary arguments. They believe these changes are part of their father's lasting impact on their lives. They want viewers to understand that grief can break you, but it can also transform you into a more compassionate person. Finally, they address the rumors that have been circulating for over a decade and explain why they chose now to speak openly. They say that for many years, they were too young, too hurt, or too overwhelmed to correct the false stories. They needed time to grow, reflect, and heal. Now, as adults with a clearer understanding of their father's life and legacy, they feel responsible for telling the truth. They want the world to remember Robin Gibb not as a figure surrounded by gossip, but as a man of incredible talent, emotional depth, and unwavering love for his family. They say that speaking out is not just about correcting rumors. It is about honoring a father who gave the world his voice and gave his children his heart. They hope that by sharing these stories, fans will see the real Robin, a brilliant musician, a loving father, a gentle soul, and a man who left behind a legacy far greater than music. They believe this honesty is the best way to keep his spirit alive and ensure that future generations understand who he truly was. Robin Gibb's children also emphasize how much they learned about resilience by observing their father's battles with illness and personal challenges. They share that while many people only saw the polished performer on stage, Robin faced countless struggles behind the scenes that required immense courage and determination. From his early battles with personal and family conflicts to his later fight with colon cancer, he constantly demonstrated an unyielding spirit. His children describe him as a man who, even in moments of pain or uncertainty, refused to give up on his dreams or his family. They remember how, during his illness, he would still find ways to create music, support charitable causes, and maintain a presence in the lives of his children. Even when he appeared physically weak, his mind remained sharp, and his emotional strength often astonished those around him. For his children, witnessing this courage firsthand became a lesson that life can be difficult, but resilience and love can carry you through the hardest times. The children also reflect on how their father's career shaped their understanding of responsibility and dedication. Growing up with a parent whose life revolved around music meant they saw firsthand the long hours, the rehearsals, the tours, and the endless work required to achieve greatness. Robin's children say that while fame is often glamorous on the outside, it comes with heavy sacrifices, especially for family life. They recall how he balanced parenting with recording sessions and international tours. While it was not always easy, Robin made a conscious effort to be present whenever possible. He taught them that pursuing your passion requires commitment, but it should never overshadow the relationships that truly matter. This philosophy, his children explain, continues to influence their own lives. They strive to find a balance between their ambitions and family responsibilities, following the example their father set in his own imperfect but loving way. Another important insight, they provide concerns the way Robin handled public scrutiny. As a member of one of the most famous bands in history, he lived under constant observation. The children say that the pressure was sometimes intense, especially when rumors about his personal life circulated in the media. They explained that, even as a child, they witnessed the emotional toll this took on him. Robin could have withdrawn completely, but he chose instead to continue creating music and connecting with fans. He understood that the love of his audience could not erase private pain, but could provide purpose and inspiration. His children note that this taught them the importance of staying true to oneself, even when the world watches and judges. They explain that his perseverance in the face of criticism showed them how strength and humility can coexist, even in the most challenging circumstances. Robin's children also talk about the importance of love in his life and how it influenced everything he did. They say that, above all, Robin loved deeply his family, his friends, his music, and even his fans. This capacity for love was sometimes complicated by the pressures of fame, health struggles, and personal challenges, but it was always present. They describe how he tried to maintain harmony within his household, cared for each of his children individually, and supported their interests and ambitions. Even in his final days, his concern for his family's well-being was evident. The children say that love was both a guiding force and a source of strength for him. His dedication to family, combined with his devotion to music, created a legacy of both artistic achievement and personal warmth that they hope to continue carrying forward. Finally, the children emphasize how important it is for fans and the public to understand Robin Gibb as a full human being, not just as a musical legend. They explain that while his voice and songs will always define his public image, the man behind the music had flaws, faced challenges, and experienced deep emotions like anyone else. By sharing their experiences, they hope to provide a more complete picture, a talented, sensitive, and resilient man who loved his family, pursued his passion, and faced life's struggles with courage and grace. They believe that understanding the human side of Robin Gibb makes his music even more meaningful, because it reflects not only technical skill, but also real emotion and life experience. For them, this is the most important legacy of all, a reminder that behind every legend is a person whose life, choices, and love continue to inspire long after they are gone.